Hello, greetings, everyone. Sorry that we don't have K9 in the building, but he's on as I said on Facebook. He's on the road. He's actually in Milwaukee. So hey, I'm a little old, but it might be so cold that the signal froze up. Don't know what's going on there, but yeah, K9's in Milwaukee, getting ready to throw down again. And we're hoping that we can get him live a little later in the broadcast. We have two guests tonight. The first one is going to be Mr. Excuse me, Brewart. I want to say Brewart, but it's actually Brewart. And the young man is actually Richard Brewart Jr. We're going to ask him about how he got started in boxing and the usual questions. Okay, is that better? I think you can hear me now. I've been running my mouth and not saying anything. Okay. Anyway, as I was saying, we have Mr. Richard Brewart Jr., uh, 8-0 fighter, 4 KOs, and he'll be on at the 6:30 mark. At 7 o'clock, we'll have Pat Russell. Pat, very well known judge and referee here in the state of California, along with training the new referees. And as I said, we will try to find out more about the new blood that is being infused here in California. Um, Speaking of some of the bouts that we're looking forward to, Ryan Garcia and Manny Pacquiao is out, but Pacquiao somehow has a belt. Those are very prevalent right now. I think I might go down and buy one at the local Dick's Sporting Goods. Seems like they're that prevalent now. Everybody has a belt. Junior has a belt. Hello. What's up, Vinny? What's going on, my man? So, what's next for Manny Pacquiao? Are we going to see a Manny Pacquiao? Do we want to see a Manny Pacquiao? A lot of questions to be asked here. I mean, did Manny look good in his last fight? No. Did Manny put butts in seats? Yes, he did. So we'll see. um, but everyone's wondering what Manny's going to do next. There's a lot of can't be muted again. Okay. So, as I was saying, everybody's wondering what's next for Manny. Ha, okay. I see K9. K9 got jokes here, but we need to get him on the show. Uh, so what happens to Ryan Garcia? Uh, Ryan Garcia was looking for this fight. Now he's at a point where he almost has to fight. Uh, oh my man, shit! I got a brain fart here. Tank. He has to fight Tank. I think right now that's the only way out for him as far as the cash goes, and if he wants to get that big payday. Now, also, we have Sean Porter that's calling out Errol Spence. Now, as much as I like Errol Spence, I think this would be a very good fight. And the reason why I say that is, I know Errol Spence can change on a dime. He has, he has all the skills needed. But has he been pressed by a boxer of the caliber of Sean? And like I said, right now, as far as I'm concerned, Bud is my pound for pound guy. I would pick him in a decision over Sean. I'm still not convinced that Bud would have the power to knock Sean out. But if it goes the distance, once again, I think Sean would be on the losing end. And I say that simply because of the reputation of Bud. I mean, this is, I think Bud is a fight that you have to win. You cannot leave it in the judge's hands. So I'm looking forward to the announcement for Sean's fight. And I'm sure that's going to be coming up pretty soon. But there's also rumors of Bud and Errol Spence. Now, this is a good matchup also. If I had my druthers, I'd rather see Sean Porter and Bud first. And then let the winner take on Errol Spence. Or I'm even good with the other way around. I'm good with Errol Spence and Sean Porter. And the winner gets Bud. Either one. I think Sean has the style that he can contend with either one. So either one that he gets, I would love to see that fight. Errol Spence and Bud, another fight that could be made, but it's another one of those, it can be, but will it be? So, we also got a chance to see Comey come back after the way that he was knocked out by Talifimo. So he's putting himself back in the mix. He fought a young man that he was supposed to beat. There was no doubt. So he is back on track. Maybe at the end of the year or so, he can work his way up into a contender spot. And it's a lot of turmoil going on right now. I mean, you have Bud talking about, and Bob saying, well, if you want to leave, leave. Now you have Talifimo, said that he's moving on if Top Rank can't meet his terms. So boxers are starting to control their own destiny. Now, to me, this is a good thing because we have seen over the years how boxers have been sold 105% of themselves. We've seen boxers that, didn't get paid after fights. And it's refreshing to see these young fighters know that they have some power and take advantage of that power. Whereas in the old days, the promoter had all the power, and we can go into some of the contracts and some of the heartbreaks of a boxer. We can go into the fan side of fights that we should have seen over the years that have been denied. So it's a good thing, like I said, to see them taking control of their destiny. But let's hope that they know the business side of boxing. They know how to take care of the physical part. And it sounds easy to go out there and put butts in seats, especially when that's been fighters' jobs over the years to sell tickets. Now we have this thing here that we're looking at right now. We have live streaming. So there's a lot of opportunities for not only producers and promoters, but the fighters themselves to live stream their own fights. Now, granted, some of the younger guys or, the guys that are up and coming, this is going to be problematic for them. But for fighters like Telefimo or Devin Haney, fighters that have their own production companies, their promotion companies, that is, this is a very easy transition. It's a matter of finance. Now, if you haven't managed your money properly and you have to depend on the promoter, then that's on you. But I don't know whether to say that Bob is losing his grip on the industry. Bob is certainly old enough to retire if that's what he wanted to do. Not exactly sure of the management of Top Rank and where he would want to bequeath his legacy. But young fighters are starting to realize that, hey, I'm the one that's taking the chances. I'm the one that's in there putting my life on the line. And it's about time that I get paid accordingly. Or if you can't pay me, hey, let me go. Jojo Diaz also had a fight on ESPN, and he fought to a draw, which was not a bad thing. But Jojo is definitely back on the fast track, and we're looking forward to seeing Jojo back in the ring. Let's see if we have. Okay. Mike should, Richard should be coming on very soon. Mr. Brewart, that's Brewart Jr., fighting out of Rancho Cucamonga. Those of you out here in California, now I will admit I've only been out here since 2003. But this is actually the first gentleman that I have met that actually lived, went to school, and still resides in Rancho Cucamonga. Rancho Cucamonga, for native Californians, you probably know it's not a very big town. Kind of like the same town that Robert Garcia's gym is in. Very small little towns here in California, but towns that are full of talent. As I mentioned, Richard actually went to Rancho Cucamonga High School, and he'll be fighting, I believe it's February 21st. We'll get all the details from him as soon as he comes in. And he's been prepared. I put one of his sparring sessions, actually, I think it was a speed bag session, up on our channel. Go to the Dawg Pound. with Canine Bundage, and you'll see him up there on the on the page. So we have Richard fighting this Friday. I think it's a 3-bout card. Uh, we are starting to get more people involved out here in California. Starting to have a few people be able to visit, and let me see if I can get him on here.
What's going on?
Oh, what's going on, Richard? Hold on, let me get back on here. I was Richard. I was actually looking for you there. How are things this evening, my man?
Good, just resting up right now.
Well, I should put one of your YouTube bag sessions up on our Facebook page a little earlier today.
Yeah,
You're fighting this weekend, right? Is it
yeah,
this weekend? Okay. I also looked up your amateur record, and you were 1-1. Uh,
yeah. National. When it came to national, yeah, I had 30 amateur fights though.
okay, okay. So, were you fighting at middleweight then, or were you a little lighter?
Uh, the end of my amateur career, I fought at 152, but for the last 2 years, the last 2 years of my amateur career, I fought around 150.
Well, let's learn a little bit about you. How did you get into boxing? I was telling everyone, I haven't moved out. I just moved out here in California in 2003. And I had heard of Rancho Cucamonga. Now that I've been here, I've been there once or twice, but you were actually the first person that I met that actually grew up, went to school, and still stay in Rancho Cucamonga.
Yeah, I've been in Rancho my whole life.
That's like, so uh, tell us a little bit about how you got started in boxing. I mean, I know you're down there where there's, that's kind of a boxing haven down in that valley there. How did you get started?
Yeah, I started boxing when I was 12, and I got into it because I was a heavy set kid. So it was really just to lose weight and get in shape and stuff. But about a year into me training, I decided to try a fight, one of my first amateur fights, and I fell in love with it, and I've been doing it ever since.
It's being on the outside. It's very hard for me to imagine, someone enjoying getting punched in the face. Now, I've been, in this business with Emmanuel since 2003. God rest his soul. But it takes a special kind of guy
Yeah,
to, because I mean, people look at the end result. Okay, you got to fight Friday, or is it Friday
it's on
or Saturday?
Sunday.
On, okay, on Sunday. You got to fight on Sunday. So people, they look at the fight, but they don't look at everything that happened before the fight.
Yeah,
How many hours you put in the gym? How many hours you put in working out? Now you said that you started fighting when you were like 12.
yeah. I started boxing when I was 12 years old. 22 now, so 10 years. June.
So you definitely had over 1,000 hours.
Yeah,
Uh,
no.
you know, of just sparring and working out. Now, how first of all, when you came from the amateurs to the pros, I'm sure a lot of people thought you were a sparring partner.
Yeah, there's a few people. I mean, nobody really knew me too much because I didn't have a really big amateur career. Or anything. People barely started finding out about me probably about 2 or 3 fights ago, and now everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. But yeah, when I first turned pro, I mean, I was known. People knew me because my last year, the amateurs, I made it all the way to national Golden Gloves. Um, I beat everybody in California. There was nobody who beat me in California,
Okay. Okay.
but everybody out here knew who I was. Now I'm kind of getting a little bit of a name everywhere now.
Now you do have a 50% knockout rate. So did you have that same power when you were in the amateurs, or is that why you became a pro because your style was more fitting to pros than amateurs?
Yeah, I had my amateur career wasn't all that great at the beginning, but it was good at the end. But my power fitted more for the pros because I'm more of a boxer puncher. I'm not in the amateurs. Those guys just throw 1,000 punches, but then that's it. They don't really try to set up power or anything. I was more of that patient guy that would look for things and set things up. So my style definitely fit more for the pros.
Who trains you? Who's your trainer? Who's your team?
I trained in Riverside with Henry Ramirez.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
We've been friends with Henry. He's we've had some of his fighters on the show. I think we've even talked to Henry a couple of times. Tell me, usually since you've been in the game for 10 years, I mean, what's it like? Because the first 9 years, you had the fans, you had people participating, you were generally able to go wherever you wanted to go to get sparring. What's it like now? Uh, you know,
Yeah, it's completely different now. Everybody's so cautious now that you don't want to go to the gyms and stuff. Luckily with Henry, we have probably about 10 other guys that are my weight that fight at my weight. So the sparring is I don't have to worry about too much sparring because we have all the guys at the gym. But when it comes to fights and stuff, it's completely different. There's not a lot of fights like there was. You pretty much have to be signed or you're going in as opponent to get a fight at this point right now because not a lot of shows. And then no fans. It's definitely weird. I fought in December and it was different with no fans. It was completely different.
no, 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 none of them oohs and ahs when you connected, right?
Yeah. And you hear everything. You hear every shot that lands. It's crazy how much different it is now.
I know, man. When you look at it on TV, I mean, you can hear the body shots. You can hear, like you say, you hear everything now. The instructions from the ring. I mean, from the corners, you hear it all. So let's talk a little bit about you and your team. How long have they been with you, and who are you signed with?
I've been with Henry now for about 5, 6 years, going on around there.
Okay.
I started with Henry when I was 17, and I've been with him ever since. Probably one of the best choices I made was going with Henry. He brought me a long way. I'm signed now with Thompson Boxing Promotion. They I made my debut, and then they started putting me on my second fight, and they've pretty much I've been with them the whole time since my second fight.
So is this your first headline fight?
Yeah, it is.
What do you know about your opponents? Have you studied him? Was it film
Yeah,
or
there's
you do you lead it up to do you lead that up to your trainer?
no. We'll both watch a little bit. There's not too much film out there. The only thing that I really watched was his last fight because I mean it was his last fight. That's probably what he's gonna do when he tries to fight me. He's more of just from what I seen, he was a boxer. He tried to box, but he's kind of flat-footed, not super fast. He tries to fight flexible, but he's not super flexible. When it comes to boxing, I think I'm like miles ahead of him skill wise. Not trying to talk smack or anything, but he's a
Well,
good
I
guy.
mean, you did bring him in as volumes, uh, but so are you ready to get on the scales? Uh,
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
the deal there?
I'm only like 4 pounds over. Good now, ready to eat. Definitely eat.
Now, are you at home? Are you away from your family? I mean,
No, I'm
uh,
at. I train. I'm at home. I don't have to. I guess you say most guys that leave sometimes they don't have the discipline to train at home.
yeah,
But
yeah.
no, I'm at home. I don't have to go anywhere to train or anything. I just drive to Riverside every day from Rancho, and that's really it. And I train at home in the afternoon. So
So, do you have any family around? Wife, kids, anything like that?
Just my parents and I take care of my uncle that's disabled. I live with my sister and my mom, and that's it. No girlfriend, nothing. I'm just boxing. I'm just focusing on my career right now.
Well, hey, at 22, you're 22, so you do have a lot of time. So, what's some of your aspirations? I mean, I'm sure you got into this because of love of boxing, but I'm sure at some time, there's some other things that you'd like to do. What would you like for your legacy, or what would you like people to remember you for? In the game of boxing, I'm sure you're thinking of well, another at least 8, 9 years in the game.
Yeah, I always tell everybody at latest I want to retire when I'm probably about 30. I say 10 years at most. But obviously within that time, I want to become the best out there, the world champ, have other world titles, have weight, even go up and unify different weights and become pound for pound one of the top guys. It's just I'm not in it to do nothing.
Yeah.
I put too much work to not get anywhere.
So, who are some of the fighters that you looked up to, or that think that you may have picked up some of your tricks from?
One guy that I watch all the time is Terence Crawford. It's like my favorite fighter right now when it comes to the skill wise and everything. That guy is off the chart with the way he could switch to righty, lefty, box both ways. I watch him all the time. And then one guy that I used to watch that was back in the day now was Prince Nassim Ahmed. That was one of my favorite fighters. I just love everything he did. He was crazy, but when it came to skill, they were just both two good guys.
I was just talking about Terence Crawford, a little bit before you came on, because there's a possibility, two fights, and I'd like to have your opinion on both. The first fight that I'm thinking of is Terence Crawford versus Sean Porter. There's been a lot of back and forth, and you see Sean training and trying to call Terence out and different things like that. And the second fight that Terence actually mentioned the other day, and I believe it was on Ring Magazine, is Terence against Errol Spence.
Yeah,
What do you think of those two fights?
both tough fights. Sean Porter is just rugged dude. Like that's one guy that everybody you could be the top guy and it's gonna be hard to deal with him just because his style. He's just strong. He has that football background, so he knows how to use his body, use his strengths against you. That would be a test right there. I think Sean Porter is gonna give him a run for his money. You're gonna find out if Crawford or not because that guy's ruthless. He don't care.
Yeah, yeah. I love Sean. Been a fan of his for years. And Sean does a lot of things. The last boxing expo, which was a couple of years ago, he was really good with the audience, mixing with the audience, giving away a lot of stuff. But he's definitely the people's fighter. What do you think about Errol?
Earl's Earl's another guy that's a 50-50 fight for sure. Crawford's a 50-50 fight for sure. I have to go with Crawford because that's my favorite guy. But man, he dismantled Danny Garcia after coming off all that layoff and everything that happened to him. I don't think anybody thought he was gonna look that good. He went right through Danny Garcia like it was kind of nothing. But
Yeah.
he's he's another guy that he there's a chance he beats Crawford. I see, but I think Crawford takes it honestly.
I think the Sean Porter fight is much more dangerous for Terence Crawford than
Yeah,
Errol Spence.
style wise, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
What I would like to see is Errol Spence and Sean Porter in the winter take on Bud. That's what I would like to see. But
Yeah,
so your middleweight. What do you think about your division? I mean, there's a lot of guys up there now. Everybody's popping. Of course, Canelo has one of the belts, I believe. You got quite a few guys though at middleweight. Charlo brothers, a few others. What are you thinking? About your division and the strength of that middleweight division.
The stack, it's definitely a stacked division. I mean, I'm in one of those divisions where it takes a long time kind of to get to the top. These lighter weight classes, they get there faster. But there's so many people in my weight that it's gonna take a little while. But it's stacked right now, and by the time I get there, it's still probably gonna. I'm not far off, but I still have a little bit of time. But there's a lot of in my division. There's not just guys like you got your boxers, your bangers, your boxer punchers, your slick fast guys. Like I'm still in that weight where you have your fast guys and you're gonna have your fast and punch hard and everything. There's a mix of everything in this weight. Normally, the higher you go, the lower they get. The lower you go, the faster. Not as heavy on the power, but I'm right in the middle where it makes it.
Yeah, yeah. Are you ranked yet?
I've never looked, but I don't think so. Nothing yet. Nothing crazy yet. This is
Good.
my ninth fight. Yeah.
Okay. And your fan base, how have you managed to keep that during this pandemic? I know Do you have a lot of social media? Like I said, I know I put up your YouTube speed work. How do you keep in touch with your fans?
Just yeah. During was really just Instagram and Facebook and stuff, trying to keep up. And then when I got fights, it makes it easier with Thompson because they live stream everything for free. So even though they couldn't be there, they were there on the live stream. So it makes everything a lot easier because they do that. But everything was really just online, social media, keeping everybody updated with what was going on with the me getting ready for fights and stuff to dates and everything.
Now, as you mentioned, Thompson live streams everything. Do you consider that an advantage? Especially like you said. I mean, there's no fans at the site. I mean, at the fight itself. But a lot of promotion and production companies are starting to live stream, just like we had to do. The pandemic kind of caused us to go live stream. How has that affected you and your performance? I mean, a lot of fighters fight good, when they're in the gym or you can't be seen, but sometimes when the bright lights hit you, you
Yeah.
can't say nothing about the fans, but when you know that you're on there, I mean, you can still see yourself up there. I mean, what's that like? I mean, do you consider it, as I said, an advantage having a company that's already into live streaming? You don't have to worry
I mean,
about the zone or nothing like that.
yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not really. Every time I fought, I've never been that guy that has the nerves, nothing like that. I'm always calm and collected. I've never had a problem with fans. I'd rather have fans there. Honestly, I'd rather be in front of everybody with the big lights and everything. But right now, there's nobody. It kind of feels like you're. But I mean, either way, once you're in fight mode, you're in fight mode. Some guys will say that it's not true, and some guys say it well. But and when you're getting ready for a fight, when you're fighting, when fight day come in, you getting hit with no glove, with those no gloves, no headgear. You know when it's fight day coming. Like, there's there's no crowd. You don't hear nothing. That's just it. And really, honestly, when you fight, I don't know if it's everybody, but most of the time I don't ever hear the crowd because I'm kind of like tunnel vision. The only people I'll hear is my corner, and that's really it.
Oh, okay. That's kind of interesting there. You don't necessarily. I mean, you feel the fans, but they don't really affect your performance. Is that what you're trying to say? I
Yeah,
mean, you still go in and do what your job is.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I hear them sometimes, but like if I get a knockdown or something, I guess for that split second, I'll hear everybody yelling. But otherwise, I never really hear anything. I try not to, anyways, because you got people out there saying things that you don't want to hear, or I just go in there and do what I got to do at the end of the day and show how I need to show.
Now, I'm not sure. It might be a little modesty on your part, but you do know yourself better than I do or anyone else. But you got 4 knockouts out of 8 fights. I mean, that 50% makes you a little more than just a boxer puncher. I think.
Yeah, I feel like my power is kind of underrated because that guy, I fought some, I fought some guys they weren't supposed to beat me, but I fought some tough guys my first few fights. But I wasn't getting knockouts. It was kind of weird. I would knock one guy here, and then the next guy would get a decision. But my last 2 fights, I fought both decent fighters, and I knocked both of them out. It kind of shows more when I'm fighting better guys.
Uh, th- are you a body puncher? Do you attack the body? I mean, two things that I've found that younger fighters I think underutilize, and that's the body and the jab. Uh, how's your jab, and what's your body attack like?
My jab's good, but sometimes I'll catch myself not using it sometimes. But
Uh,
that's my bread and butter. I tear everybody apart going upstairs. That's a big thing that I use a lot. That's like my main game, going downstairs and setting everything up.
yeah, that's kind of old school. You know, attacking the body and then going to the head. A lot of people are headhunters. So let's talk a little bit more about your upcoming fight here. Your first headline, um, and this is a 3 fight card.
Yeah, they're only having 3 fights. I think there was another fight, but it had fell out due to somebody getting sick or injured or something like that. But yeah, this is only a 3 fight card.
Now, this is California, and I know things might be different out here than it is in other states. Uh, but have you been tested? What kind of protocol did you have to go to before your fight? I mean, was it mandatory testing, or what
Yeah,
was
no,
the deal there?
it's mandatory now. I've been for the past few weeks. I've been going once a week to get COVID tested, and then actually coming. I fight since I fight on Sunday. I have to check in to the hotel on Friday, the bubble for the Thompson. And as soon as I get there, they test me, and then they send me straight to my room until I get my results. Can't be around nobody until they know if I'm positive or negative still. But it's mandatory now, at least once a week, a few weeks before the get tested.
Uh, some fighters I found in other states are rather leery about getting tested and the vaccine. Have you had any problems with? Well, I don't know if you've had the vaccine yet, but have you had any problems with testing? Uh,
No, I mean, either way, we're gonna have to do it. If you're gonna fight, you're gonna have to get tested. That's just. I've never had any problems with it though, and I never did the vaccine. So I was thinking about doing it, but I'm not sure if I want to do it yet or not.
yeah, well, as long as you tested negative, then I guess it wouldn't matter. But uh, would you fight another fighter that in another state that hadn't been tested?
No, because I gotta know. I mean, they wouldn't allow it happen because it's mandatory now. If the commission out here, they're so strict that if you're not getting tested, you're not fighting. That's just really it. So even if I was fighting somebody from a different state, which my last fight I did, I fought a guy from Mississippi, and I'm sure the first thing they did when he got here was made sure he tested. I'm sure they made him test back at home too, but I know it's mandatory. You have no fighting at all.
Okay, okay. Um, What about were there any waivers that was there anything different about this contract as far as the health requirements than any other fight that you've had this year since the COVID?
Yeah, I just fought in December, so COVID was going on when I fought in December. Both contracts, everything's the same, but they add everything about COVID now. Everything about getting tested, the pretty much everything about COVID, and then the rest of the contract's still the same about the fight and everything, weigh in, weigh person you're fighting, everything.
Another thing, and I don't ask a lot of fighters this, but I often wonder. Uh, there's about three different types of gloves that fighters wear. Rival, being among them, and a few others. What gloves do you find best fit your hands?
I wear Everlast.
You wear Everlast?
Yeah,
Have you tried Grants or any of the others, or
I've,
is that part of your contract?
I've never tried anything because I'm sponsored with Everlast.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
that would be the next thing. Yeah.
they do everything for me. They make gloves to everything. So I've always wore Everlast. Even when before I was sponsored by them or anything, I wore Everlast because I feel like they work best with my hands and they're the most comfortable. But yeah, I've never tried any other gloves.
What about your wraps? Do they supply your wraps also?
When you fight, you just gauze tape and all that, and then in the gym, yeah, I use their wraps and stuff.
Hey, well, it sounds like your career is really on its way. You have a good promotion company. You got Everlast behind you. Uh, you're undefeated, and so why don't you tell everybody where they can find you? Tell everybody about your fight and where they can find you on social media, man.
Yeah, on social media, I use Instagram mainly. That's where everything is posted about boxing. It's under my name, Richard Brewer Jr. No spaces, everything together. Getting ready to fight February 21st, as we've been talking about, against a guy named Nate Weston. He's undefeated too, 6-0. I think he has 2 draws and 3 knockouts or something like that. But yeah, we're just getting ready for Sunday. Right now, getting the weight off and just relaxing, trying to rest up as much as possible.
So, about how many hours do you think that you put in the gym for this fight?
I mean, I go to the gym for about 2 to 3 hours in the morning, and I work out for about 2 to 3 hours at night. I run and stuff. So figure probably about 5, 6 hours a day at least. So I've been in camp now for about 7, 8 weeks. So I mean, I put in a lot of hours. Yeah.
Yeah, like hey, everything. I mean, the boxer's life is hard. I mean, you talk about warriors. I have to take my hat off to you guys every week, every day. When I think about like I said, what goes into a fight. So, when are you going to be down here in Southern California?
I stay here in Southern California. I stay down here.
Well, like, hey, L.A., Vegas.
Only 45 minutes from LA, so
Okay, you're 45 minutes north, right? Or is it?
no, east of LA.
Okay, yeah, that's right. I keep thinking you're out there in the valley. I'm down in San Diego, so everything is north to me,
Oh yeah,
unless you're.
you are out there.
Yeah, everything is north. Yeah. So, hey, Aaron, excuse me. It was good talking to you, and I really look forward to talking to you again after the fight is over with.
Oh yeah.
So I think you're going to be 9-0. I'm looking forward to it. And as we were talking about the middleweight division, who do you think is king of the middleweight division right now?
I mean, the man, hello. So, I don't know if anybody beats him. If anybody's gonna get close, I think it'll be Charlo. But
Do you think he'll fight Charlo?
Charlo calling him out for years and nothing's happened. But I feel like it's one of those things that it's kind of like a Floyd and Manny thing. Like Carlo's been calling him out for the longest. Manny was calling Floyd out for the longest, and it took a long time to happen, but it happened. Hopefully, it doesn't happen like that. But
All right, bro. Well, hey, it was good talking to you. Give us your final thoughts, and we look forward to talking to you again.
okay, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys for having me on.
All right. You have a good night.
You too.
That was Mr. Brewer and K9 Grants, bro. Hey, but it does help when you do have people, coming to help you out. It's very good. Everlast is a very good sponsor. You know, a lot of guys have worn Everlast down through the ages. But you know, you always hear that word grants, and you hear a lot of fighters talking about wearing grant gloves. So you have to think about that. I see K9's here. Aaron Parker, what's up, Aaron? Here's my boy Pat. What's going on, Airborne?
How you doing, Airborne? How are you?
All right, man. I'm still here, still kicking. Got my first shot, and hey, I'm trying to do the best I can to stay here, my man.
Yeah, I hear you.
Hey, it's every year there's less and less of us old Vietnam guys left, man. So
Boy, isn't that the truth? But we got this far, and I always consider it a blessing every day, and especially in the age of COVID and every other disaster which has struck this last year. Really a seminal year in this country's history last year, Airborne. It truly was.
And not to mention the beginning of this year, which was even worse. But we'll talk about that at a different time.
Yes, sir.
We're talking boxing right now. But hey, man, I missed the old chicken pot pies, man.
I have to tell you that it just seems to me we're kind of like in this big deep freeze, not only in boxing but like in society. And part of that is that one of the great pleasures of life is hanging out with people you want to hang out with. And you and I having a chicken pot pie down there off of El Cajon Boulevard, I can't tell the rest of the people listening just how much fun that is, because any topics on the table, every person at that table, you and I respect each other, even if we have differences. I mean, all of that is gone right now. So the only voice sometimes you're hearing is that your own voice. And the problem with that is that, most of life is about interaction, etc. And we're just losing out on that. I really feel bad for people. I really do. Not pitying on myself, but I'm thinking of the kids. When I'm with the high school, part of going to high school was being socialized. Part of high school was, learning about what other people were about. The same with the service, and all of that is just. It's just different now. You go in, perform your job, and then just walk away. It's really weird.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, you can't say hello to to your guy, walk up, shake hands, all that stuff is kind of over with now. It's like, there's not a lot of people, around, mostly the cornermen, the judges. And I mean, well, you've been there. I don't have to tell you, but so how much different has it been as a judge? I talk to the fighters all the time about, not having a crowd. And I know the judges don't listen to the crowd and things like that, but just the atmosphere. I mean, a room full of, a big room and what, 12 people, maybe 20 people there?
Yeah. It's unique. I tell you, I've done a couple of things. I'm a volunteer at the professional golf tournament in our town, San Diego, the Farmers. And this year we didn't have fans at that event either. And I'll give you two different sides of that coin. The first one in boxing is that it is really odd to do fights in a bubble. And that's what it is. I mean, you go there the day before, you get tested. The fighters probably get there 3 or 4 days before. They get tested. Everything is restricted. You go to your room until you clear your test, which is usually the next morning, sometime early in the morning. And then they, send you a text message that says, "Hey, you're clear." And then you get restricted stuff. You go down to an area. You go in like a sealed elevator. You have breakfast. You have to maintain a social distance. You go over to the event when you're backstage, where waiting for your fight to come up. Normally, you'd be chatting with the other officials. Well, you can do that as long as you maintain that social distance and you keep your mask on. Then you go out to the ring. And the odd part about that is that boxing, more than any other sport, is about feeding off the crowd for everybody, not just for the fighters, but the crowd feeds on itself, the officials feed on itself. I mean, it just raises everything up to start off with. So now you're sitting there and you're watching two guys have a fist fight. You're making a judgment based on that, and you can hear everything. You can hear the punches land. You can hear what their response is to it. I mean, all that stuff that would have been masked by crowd noise and just general stuff out there, you can hear it all. And it's in some ways, it's like a different dimension of fighting. The referees heard it a lot in the ring, but nothing like what the judges and stuff are hearing. And I'm wondering, I haven't, we do a lot of a Zoom conferencing, but I'm going to pose that question, that if hearing and seeing things in this really kind of much more intimate kind of way, if that really affects the way that you give an evaluation to what you just saw. And I don't know what the answer is for that. I really don't. I mean, I've got my own personal thought, but I don't know if we had 10 referees and 10 judges in a room, what they would say. Each one of them, I think, would bring something a little different to that conversation.
Speaking of the judges and the referees, and especially the referees, has it kind of made their job easier? More able to concentrate on the action in front of them. I mean, there's actually no distraction.
That's I don't know. I'd let the referees speak, because thankfully I had put in my time, and I have retired from the ring, so I don't know what this particular environment for them is like. But whatever the environment is, Airborne, that's not going to make any difference about the difficulty of the job of that professional official. There is no tougher job in sports officiating than boxing referee. None. Nothing's even close. The reason I say that is Jack Reese and I put together a program called Soul Arbiter, which is really the idea is to teach people all the stuff that we learned in our combined 60 or 70 years in the ring, and extensive use of videos, talking about situations, talking about mechanics. And this started off last year because we just want to be able to pass the knowledge on more than anything else. I mean, you don't have to relearn how to do the wheel. The wheel is the wheel. And what it became for Jack and I was we started examining every aspect of that job of being a referee. And it has just been fascinating what kind of responses and things that we have put in place and really brought to the attention of a lot of folks that I think are important in this business. And as long as that conversation goes on, the more people that give input, the better kind of analysis, followed by the better kind of result, and a better way to do business will be there. And that's ultimately what we're looking for. So it's kind of a long answer, Airborne, but I'm trying to give you kind of a feel from my point of view.
K9 said to tell you that you look younger, no more stress.
Yeah, I shaved off the beard because of my family. And well, thank you, Canine, but I'm not. I appreciate it. And here's the other thing, James, that I miss about this is being able to have conversations like this. You sit down with some boxing folks. You know what I love more than anything else now? When I go there, and I can hardly wait for it to come back, is the interaction with the fans. I mean, I know the officials. I know the sports writers. I know some of the fighters. I know a lot of the trainers. And really, we're kind of like we're old neighbors. We know each other. We have respect for each other. But the best part about going to those fights are having fans come up and just chat with you about a fight that they saw that you had some participation in one way or the other, and just to have that conversation. It is the best. I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's any other sport where that happens. I couldn't imagine NBA referees getting off the court and sliding in next to somebody and having a chat, but it happens to me all the time. And if you're in this thing long enough, and if people have long memories, they remember you, and they don't always remember all your good stuff, which is fine. But they ask you intelligent questions because they're boxing fans. Like in the 6th round, after you'd warned them 3 times, how come you warned them a 4th time about the low blow? Those kinds of things. And that really makes you stay on your toes to give them an answer that they may disagree with, but at least they can understand your point of view. And I miss that. I think this, without that, I love the club shows. I really do. They're the best. Nothing wrong with having 15,000 people in a stadium. That's an excitement level all into its own. But there's nothing wrong with having 400 people in a small venue with some kid who's a local phenom and some other guy who's who everybody knows, and and they're doing that stuff. I mean, that's the best. That's just the best.
Yeah. Yes, some of these young kids 8-0, 10-0, and you go out there and you watch them, and you know that they're going to make their mark sooner or later. But you mentioned the program that I really wanted to talk about, which was your referee training. And I think the last time we talked, you had your first lady that had went through your class. I think she's she's already working now, right?
Oh yeah, there's we have a couple 3 lady referees in California, and hopefully get a couple more coming up. Sharon Sands is one, and Christy Rosario is the other one. Sharon's been around a while. She's a very good official, very lovely person. I think she's a lawyer in the real world when she's not out doing this. And and she continues to work at her game. She's just great with that. Christy's newer to the professional side, but is a long-time amateur official, which gives you a different perspective. And they're both in the process of climbing the ladder to where they can get to a position that the athletic commission is comfortable with them and put them into those big fights. But we see a lot of women in the game now, which I'm respectful of. I really am. I mean, I think one of the great champions we got out there is Clarissa Shields. That girl can fight, and she's fun to watch. She really is, and I'm hopeful that she will go on and continue to be a measurable force in this sport.
Yes, we were talking about her last week. I think she's headlining a pay-per-view, all ladies.
Yeah,
and it's remarkable to see some of the strides that women are making. But I still want to see the 3-minute rounds. I'm still kind of wondering what's going on with that. But I was just talking to a gentleman that's going to be fighting Sunday here in California, and I was asking him about some of the health measures that are in effect. Can you tell us how COVID has changed the rules of boxing, and you as a judge, Jack as a referee? I'm sure things are very different now. when you go
Oh
back
yeah,
in the dressing room.
yeah, and especially for referees. I mean, there was always the issue to start off with was transmittable diseases through through blood and through bodily fluids, etc. But now, when you start talking about an aspiration disease, that it potentially could be fatal to anybody, that puts a whole different can of worms on it. The California Athletic Commission has always been blessed with some really fine medical consultants that were doctors, and they come from a variety of different places. But we've always tried to establish the benchmark for what is the best in the business, and they clearly came out with the fact, and we have a pretty restrictive system in California. Our governor is very, I'm not sure if it's conservative or liberal or whatever, but he's not going to allow these events to go on without something where he feels comfortable that this isn't going to be a super spreader event. So the testing is important, and I think now we get down to this 1 hour test that will help. There's a whole history of what goes on. They've got to really sit there. We have a tremendous amount of stuff that we do on a medical side that we allow our physicians to take a hard look about whether this fight is really feasible and viable. And then they have a whole rating system that goes on with that. And as I alluded to, James, before, for us, you get put into an athletic bubble until the completion of those bouts. And at least at that point, they know that when you were tested and up until the point that perhaps the end of the fight, you were clear of the COVID virus. And the other ones are still in place. They still take the Hep C test. They still have to take the physical before. If they have to clear up any of their suspensions for any reason. So all of that remained in there. And this is an added layer. And it's, frankly, going to be extremely difficult, obviously, for the promoters. So what you see is a lot of studio events. I mean, we did a fight in the Staples Arena, and there was a grand total of maybe 50 or 60 people involved in the whole thing. I mean, you in Staples, you'd have more people just selling beer,
Right.
on any one night than you would, in the totality of what we had. It was just really odd. But again, it was a good fight when Roy Jones fought Mike Tyson. I was present at that. I wasn't one of the judges, but because there were no judges. But we got to be present at that. And again, it was designed for television, really for the multimedia stuff that we do on these phones. But it was a fight, and like every fight, it's going to have all the precursors to do that correctly in the state of California. And there's a lot of regulations, I think deserved regulations, which keep us at the top of the rank, knock on wood, without injuries.
Yeah, the gentleman I was talking about was Richard Brewart, and he's fighting Sunday.
Yeah.
And he was telling us about the mandatory testing.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? And do you think that in light of the way that the disease is spread here in California, especially, do you think that at some time vaccinating might be mandatory?
Well, I just got my second vaccine a week ago, and they give you a card that says
Right.
you've taken the 2 vaccines.
Yeah,
And
I got the first one. I got the first one. My second one is March 2nd.
And let me ask you this: did you get Moderna or Pfizer?
I got Moderna.
Okay, the second one I got knocked off my. I took an 8 count for a day. That's that's good stuff. But
yeah, my significant other is getting hers tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I want to be around to make sure that she,
Yeah.
and as I said, I get mine on the 2nd of March. So,
Get her home early.
Yeah.
Plenty of liquids because it whacked me pretty good. Do I think we're going to get to a point where we're going to have a requirement, a mandatory requirement that people be vaccinated before they can fight? I would expect that's coming. I don't think that they're going to race that in and say, do it tomorrow. But as this administration is really pumping up the number of vaccinations going down range. We're getting to the point where we're going to get the immunity that's naturally going to come from the spread of the disease and the mutation of the disease. And I just think that everybody is going to be more comfortable throwing that piece of paper. Now, how will that apply to the fans? Are we going to ask the fans to come in immunized? Boy, I don't know. That might be a tough one. And I don't know how that's going to be handled when it comes to doing that. But they're going to have that same problem, James, with all kinds of stuff. I'm a Padres fan. I'm looking forward to this season because we got a ball club. But at the very best,
finally, you got
yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch. But they're already telling you that we're not going to let everybody come in, and we're just not going to go back to business as usual. They're going to let in 12,000 people at a time, socially distancing. If you looked at the Super Bowl, it was theoretically going to be social distance and all that. I just think this virus has changed the face of the way we do business across the board, including sports, and I think that's just a reality.
Hey, I mean, you can tell it. I believe there's still different regulations between us and Canada. As you know,
Right.
Scully, he trains Benavides, and I mean not Benavides, yeah, Benavides, and he had, I think he tested positive for COVID, and that
Right.
was one of the reasons why I was asking, because what happens to a fighter after he's tested positive for COVID, and what if you or Jack have come in contact with him?
Yeah. Well, that's the risk you take. I mean, the other thing is, I try to put myself in everybody's position in there to see what they're dealing with. So before I make a judgment on any person's actions, but I'm thinking about the trainers and the fighters themselves. How do they get sparring partners? How do you know who your sparring partner is? When you get to the gym, how do they open those gyms up? I mean, that's an indoor environment unless you have an outdoor gym. And I mean, it's very complicated. I don't know that we're going to have something that's going to be a one shot answer that's going to take care of all this. What I think we're going to adapt like everything. We're going to adapt and overcome, or we're going to try to adapt and not overcome, I guess. But I think we changed the face of the way we do business. I mean, there's 7.5 billion people on this planet, and it's a lot of folks. It's pretty easy to spread this stuff around, and I'm just happy that at least scientifically we have a game plan and a way to do battle with this moving forward. Because I was really on edge with that before. There's no other way to say it. It was like, I can't invite my best friend over for dinner because he might kill me and not even know it. I mean, it's like, what is that?
It sounds funny, doesn't it? It's like
It
friendly
does,
fire. Friendly fire, right?
And I can say this. I'll say this for me. You can speak for yourself very eloquently, Airborne. But if people want to know what a tour of combat is like, we just went through one for a year, and that's exactly what it is. You don't know who's going to kill you, and it won't be malice. It'll just be happenstance. You bumped into the wrong guy. You were in the wrong bus. You got in the cab after a guy who had the disease transmitted the particles. You have to wear masks just so that you don't inhale this stuff or get it in your nose. I mean, it's just crazy stuff. You have to change your entire life so that you can keep your life. And that's a stressful environment. I think we're going to need a little time to detune when we come out of this. I really do.
Well, I kind of considered it like a tour of duty.
Yeah.
It's like, so you have to kind of equate it to things that you know. You know what I mean? In
Yep.
order for,
Exactly.
in order, so to me, it was like a tour of duty. That this year might be a second tour. But you do what you have to do. But
Exactly.
let's talk about some fun stuff, man.
Sure.
I've been watching some of the videos of Sean Porter. He's been calling out Terence Crawford. I think that would be a great fight. What
Yeah.
do you think about? What do you think about that? About that fight, Sean Porter versus Bud?
That'd be wonderful. First of all, I have to say all creds to the champ, Sean. He is doing a terrific job as an announcer. These kids that came out, I call them kids because I can do that. But these guys that
They're in
came
their
out,
30s, Pat. We can call them kids.
yeah, we can call them because they are kids to me. But you look at the calls that Sergio Mora makes. You look at what Sean does, and Sean brings obviously the fighter's perspective. Timmy Bradley, he does a wonderful job because obviously they're involved with it, and this is their game, and they're talking with love about the game. Andre Ward, I mean, what they are providing the fan, and I hope the fans are appreciative. I am. I just as an official and a fan, I'm appreciative of their point of view and their terrific insights into the game. I think that translates over into how you do your business when you go back into the ring. I think when you watch and analyze, what it allows you to do is watch and analyze your own game and change your game to fit the war that's in front of you. I really do. I think if you really ask, it'd be a fascinating question to ask Sean. It really would. I'd love to do it. I'm not going to get much of a chance. You might get a chance, James, but I think that's going to be a terrific fight. And, there's a fight the fans are going to love to see. I mean, it would be wonderful. I look forward to that.
Another thing that really came across my mind, and is because I have so much respect for one Mr. Mark Breland.
Yeah.
Not saying that I don't have respect for Deontay, but Mark Breland, to me, ever since he's been in the amateurs, Mark Breland is what we call a quiet man. He
Yep.
does his job, and whatever comes after that, he takes it in stride. Now, what did you think? Because I'm 100% with him. Now, I'm sure you have your own opinion, but I don't think that Deontay Wilder would beat Tyson Fury in a third fight. I do think that he. I just can't believe that in all these years that Mark Breland has not tried to make Deontay develop a jab. What do you think about that situation? I mean, when you talk about Mark and you talk about his reputation, and then you talk about Deontay. Well, I wore a 70-pound headgear in. They poisoned the water. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and I try to put, again, just to be fair and to be legitimate about this. Deontay was very critical of Jack after the first fight on what he considered a long count against Tyson Fury. In fact, that probably wasn't the case. But and that became very acrimonious. That's never good when you, just in general for you as a human being, to try and make everybody else the reason that you weren't successful. I found over, almost 73 years of life that when you make a mistake, own a mistake. If you've done the wrong thing, own what you've done. And the minute you do that, then you've assumed a different role moving forward. So even if, I used to say this in the ring, Guys would complain about minor fouls, or hey ref, he's doing this, that, and the other. It's like, get over it. Okay, so the call got missed. If you're a champion, you're going to overcome all of those things. That's what champions do. Period. They don't sit there and complain about that stuff. That's just part of being a champion in my mind. I don't know the pressure. The other thing I don't know is I don't know the pressure on Deontay. I don't know if he's, if there's other things that come into play and factors or whatever. But it's not a good look when you go after a guy who's so highly respected as Mark Breland. It's just not. And Mark, to his really to his credit and to the fact that that's who he is not the kind of guy that's gonna say things out of school or tell intimate secrets just to defend his reputation. Really, in some ways, he doesn't have to do that. His reputation is going to be his reputation.
Speaks for itself.
Exactly. I mean, silly things like he poisoned the water, or the gloves were bad, or all that stuff. Professional trainers are going to take care of that for you. They're going to know that ahead of time. That's their job. That's what they do. And the fact that you lost that fight was you lost that fight. That's all right. It's a loss. It wasn't a win. And that doesn't define you as a man. That just defines you as that particular moment in life. And I don't know. Again, I'm trying to be courteous to Deontay because he was the heavyweight champion of the world. And I think the other thing too is I don't know that. When you think about it, Ali had great advisors to tell him how to be a champion. George Foreman had some great advisors to tell him how to be a champion.
Joe Frazier.
Joe Frazier. I mean, I can go
Kenny
right down
Norton.
the list. Exactly. Go right down the list with these guys. But there's a certain level of conduct and speech that people expect out of you when you become the champion. You've got to go, and I'm not saying you can't be you, but you've got to give that respect to the position and to the fact that you're the top of the heap. Champions have to do that. So a lot of it, I mean, you might feel differently, and dislike a guy intensely, but you've got to say, well, look, I'm going to give him props in the ring or whatever else. We're not the best of friends. Let's just decide this in a ring. And then you make the decision, fans, as to who won that fight and how things are going. That's what you say. And because that's championship talk, just like there's championship effort. And I just hope that it doesn't end up being, because of this, some sort of American tragedy. You just get that sense that unless Deontay kind of gets a grip on what's going on, this thing could turn out badly for him. Because if he starts to believe that stuff, then the whole world's against him. It's like some sort of paranoid black box someplace that you go in and you can't get out. And I just hope that's not what's going on with him. But it's not a good look. It isn't a good look.
Yeah, K9 was saying it ain't easy to deal with your first loss when you're knocking everybody out.
Yeah.
But Pat, I know we've taken up a lot of your time, but I got one last question before I let you go. And this is also from K9. K9 says, Pat, do you think YouTube celebrities are good for boxing?
That's interesting. I was at that fight with this
Logan Paul.
Yeah,
Logan.
yeah. In fact, I was at both of those fights and judged both of them, I think. I have to tell you, they certainly brought in a lot of viewers. These YouTube and internet stars and all that stuff, they have a ton of followers. Is it good? I mean, I'm sure K9 would say the same thing. Everybody's a tough guy until you get hit right in the nose. And then your world changes a little bit. It hurts. And as long as it can be done safely, and as long as there are people that want to see it, that find entertainment value in it, okay. As a professional, they asked me to judge it. I'm going to give them the very best shot I got. Is it more difficult to judge a fight that's really kind of at best, an amateur fight, right? With, kind of an amateur kind of feel to it. It's a little more difficult, but that's fine. And and if it drags fans to this sport so that they appreciate what boxing is, more importantly, if these guys can get back out there and say, look, this isn't, you don't play at this. You train for this. You guard yourself for this. You make sure that you're able to do this. In that sense, I think it's okay. I really do.
I lied, Pat. One last question. I know you do a lot of work with I know you do a lot of work with the incarcerated veterans,
Yes,
and that was we've talked about that. How has this COVID situation affected your work with them?
Very interesting, and thank you for a great question, James, and all blessings to those young men and women throughout today, if they're listening to this today. From James and I, thank you for standing the line. You do that today. I appreciate that more than I can tell you. We're having the 10th anniversary, actually, of Veterans Treatment Court this month, next week. In fact, if you want, I'll send you an invite. It's going to be on Zoom, and we're going to talk a lot. A lot of kids are going to speak their mind. It has made it difficult because a journey like these veterans who are outside the wire to come back in and get re-entered are doing is much better when you've got a face-to-face, one-on-one traveling partner, which is what we end up being. I mean, if they're making the journey and you're the mentor, guess what? You're making that journey too. And so a lot of this stuff is more difficult because it's, conversations when you and I are face-to-face over a chicken pie is a little bit more intense and more human than it's when we're doing this on Zoom or whatever else. It's made it more difficult, but I have to tell you, it's just presented better challenges for us to step up. And these guys and gals keep going through the program. When they're ready to change and we're ready to give them the treatment and they're ready to reform their lives, they do. It's just, it's an inspiring story.
Yeah, definitely make sure you send me an invite. I'd be glad to participate in that.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd just love to have you on board.
Yeah, I keep promising you, but if you send me the invite, I'll be there. Okay.
All right. Always.
Airborne. All right, my brother, I'm going to let you go. We've kept you on here about 40 minutes, but why don't you give us your final thoughts, my man, and we'll let you go for the evening.
Listen, fans, boxing folks, I can hardly wait to be with you guys again. It is killing me not to be able to have these conversations live.
Well, hey, thank you so much, man, and I look forward to a chicken pie and the Zoom meeting. And hey, sooner or later they're going to let us old guys out of the bubble. So,
amen. All blessings, brother. See you later.
All right, brother. All right. You have a good night, Pat. That was Mr. Pat Russell. We also had Mr. Brewart on the show. Was hoping that we could get K9 in, but hey, he'll be back next week. K9's up there in Milwaukee. Man, oh man. I get cold just thinking about it. I got shivers going. But yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed the program. We had a lot of people in the queue. I see K9 in there. I see Vinny Roth was in. Let's see. Toxic Gameplay. Marshall Jenkins. And everyone that I hope I didn't miss anyone, but make sure you get back in next Tuesday. We'll be right here on the Dog Pound again, and we look forward to having everyone. And hey, K9 will give us some more great pointers and tell us exactly what's been happening out there. I see Federal 6. Yeah, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And hey. Have a great night. We'll see you next week right here on the Dog Pound.